Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Mowing After Dark here on the College Football Mafia Network. I am your host, Moen, joined by my co-host, Rock and Rant of CFB Express on YouTube. How are you doing today, Rock?
I'm doing good. It's playoffs week, man. Finally.
It is. Bowl Mania has hit for the decorative bowls because that's what they are now. They're decorative bowls for ESPN. By the way, if you have not done so yet, on the community tab and on our Twitter page, I listed a bowl pick'em. You can still join. I think there were one or two bowls that got played between, North Jacksonville University of DeVry and
Yeah, I think there
whoever.
was a
But
celebration bowl yesterday, and then the last LA bowl with Boise and Washington.
yeah, so definitely check that out. I want to also let you know we're going to be doing a bracket challenge here at the channel. I'll show you real quick because I'm the only one who's submitted his picks so far. So that's my bracket. I'm going to put it out there. We're going to look at. I've got Ohio State winning the national championship. Um, Call me a homer,
Shocker. I'm a
shocker.
shocker.
But to be fair, I've still got to go back and find the clip when we did our season previews, and I said Ohio State would win the national championship. Everybody jumped on me for my homerism. So, but it is
I mean,
what
it's
it
not
is.
exactly a risky pick. You guys were number one, number two all year, or number three, right? Whatever it is.
Number
I don't even
three,
know.
yeah, we started three. Let's start right off the bat. We've got an evil badger that has become a member. Thank you for becoming a member. Ryan, I will give you a little on. I know you love the On Wisconsin song. I'll give you a little On Wisconsin. I love pitching those songs up by like 2.2 tenths of a second. I think it just makes them so much better being up tempo like that. Thanks for becoming a member again, Evil Badger. Appreciate you.
You like the remix version because you're at dark. You're after dark.
It's
Everything's got
yeah,
more tempo.
it's like when they released that Star Wars version of the Empire March, but it's like an upbeat, like da 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 da. The Big Lubbock was first, except Evil Badger was because it became a new member first. Caden the Diesel Freak's in the house. How's it going? Good. I'm doing well. Caden, how about you, Rock? Are you getting
I'm doing
excited?
good. I'm doing better than Ann Arbor is. So yeah, I'm good.
By the way, for those who didn't know, they are now conducting an investigation in Ann Arbor into their athletic department. Uh, you know,
I have no problem with them doing an investigation to their athletic department. My only question is, why do you need to investigate Ward Manuel specifically? Why is he still there?
because
The
they
rest
need
of
to
it you can
fire
figure
him
it
with.
out.
I'm going to tell you right now, this entire investigation is to find some cause to fire Ward Manuel and get out of his whatever money they owe him.
That sounds fair. That's a logical answer because that clown shouldn't be there anymore. He shouldn't have been there before the scandal broke.
What before which scandal had broke?
I don't know. Juwan Howard, the gymnastics coach for 4 days, any one of the seven people who've been arrested under his watch just from the football program.
The four people banned from college football because
Right. Jim
uh
Harbaugh, Colin Stallings, the guy who went in and stole people's privacy and computer stuff, including the
right.
students. Um,
Sharon Moore threatening people with butter knives. Um Man, that story just gets crazier and crazier. I'm going to reserve judgment until I can hear the actual story, but the story that keeps spreading across social media gets crazier and crazier on
right,
that
for
whole
sure. I
situation.
think it's wise to exercise caution, right? But
Yeah.
everything we already know is enough to have a lot of conversations
And
about, right?
yes, the initial hearing, what we found out in the initial hearing, that's what we can go by. Stephen Vitt says, "How's it going tonight, Moen? Got a good glass shattering sound effect. I got the best one. I play that on my phone every time I walk through a door. Scamming, yes, says hello, gentlemen. It's not so good
Hello.
for your head. Not in first, but second. Good evening. Well, it don't matter if you're first, second, third, or fourth, guys, as long as you found your way in here. The other Gygax is here. He says, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Daniel. Daniel, of course, makes some of the shorts here on the channel.
He's also in charge of the West Virginia NIL, getting them into the 20th ranked class in recruiting.
Yeah,
That's
they
what I've
did
heard.
good.
Rumor has it.
They did good. Bob Swanger says, hey, everyone. Good to see you, Bob.
Bob Swanger, man. Congratulations, Penn State. You drunk found a great coach. Congrats.
Now let's see if Michigan can do the same thing, because Kalen DeBoer was a lock, according to some people, and credit Jake Butt on Twitter, actually calling it out and saying, "Hey, stop saying stupid shit like this, like he's a lock, when that actually hurts your chances to get a quality candidate."
Yes, Michigan. Stop saying stupid shit on Twitter. That is the exclusive domain of Notre Dame.
Yes, Notre Dame can say stupid crap on Twitter, and so can his dog. Edward the Auburn Tiger says, let's go. Caleb Ramirez says, hi, everyone, again. Good to see you, Caleb.
What's up, Caleb?
Marcus Williams says, let's goop. I don't know, man. Got a lot of goop that is going on up there in Ann Arbor, man. Who knew Moen picking Ohio State to win? Hey, man, what am I going to say? But listen, they were great defense. I think Indiana losing that defensive player is going to hurt them. I think Indiana is going to get upset at some point in this tournament. But congratulations to Fernando Mendoza. Can we get that one? First
Moen, I'm so
Heisman
disappointed
Trophy.
in you.
Why?
I totally expected you to have like a flipper sound since he says flipping so much.
No, I don't have flipper noise. I don't have. We know flipper baby. I do have a flipper baby sounder on here from kids in the hall somewhere. But, yeah, no. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to the University of Indiana again. First Heisman winner in school history. Kid totally deserved it. Diego Pavia is the human equivalent of cock cheese. Just no class whatsoever, saying F them voters because he didn't win the Heisman. Well, I'm telling you what, Diego, congratulations with what you did at Vanderbilt, but what Fernando Mendoza did at Indiana was a little more impressive, considering he never lost a game. He beat Ohio State. He beat Oregon. He beat some really high quality talent teams. He won his conference championship. You didn't even compete in yours. So eat a bag of dicks, Diego Pavia.
Yeah,
What did you
I thought
think
that
of
was,
that?
I don't know. I haven't really thought of him badly in any way before. Like, I just was fine with his level of cockiness. I just thought that was very Notre Dame of him.
It was. It was. This is the society we have with surrounding college football now. If you don't like something, you just take your ball and go home, or you make your. It's a dark time in Ann Arbor. I hear you, brother.
Yeah,
But it's a
man.
happy time in Columbus.
I feel for Michigan fans. You guys, the program, the reputation, the history deserves better, and I have no idea why. Look, everyone's responsible for their own actions, and Ward Manuel did not force Sharon Moore to do what he did. But I'm going to err on the side of we want to find out more. But will I be surprised if people knew more sooner than what went down in the last coming days, and maybe could have done something, suspension with pay in the interim while an investigation goes on? That would have done a lot of help, right?
Again, we'll have to wait and see that whole story. Looks like the country is uniting on telling the Domers to stick it where the sun doesn't shine. LOL. All right. So he has set you up here, Rock and Rant. Rock has made a little parody video here. This is a parody. Don't sue anybody. It's called Free Speech: The People versus Larry Flint. Um, Go ahead and we'll play your Tears Bowl.
Okay, go right ahead.
College football playoffs after weeks of being ranked? Boycotting bowl season out of pure heartbreak? You're exactly who we built this for.
You can go play with yourself, literally, and win a national title without ESPN. Congratulations, you're invited to the Tears Bowl.
Earn that so coveted national championship by playing with yourself. Everybody wins. Sponsored by No More Tears Shampoo.
Congratulations to the Fighting Irish at the Tears Bowl. Definitely something I will be tuning into to watch Notre Dame play with themselves.
I want to congratulate them for rescinding their bad decision on the optics and coming over to the dark side. You can't lose this one, Notre Dame. You can have Rudy play if you want. It's okay. Nobody will mind. We just want to see the tears. I said on my show on Thursday night, I'm going with blue because tears are blue. So I think blue will beat gold, but either way, Notre Dame wins.
Daniel sent me here, and that's from VicTube Productions 3314. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear that you're enjoying Daniel Shorts. He does some fantastic work here on the channel.
Absolutely.
Great contributor. The lesson in this whole scandal for young men is to have dick discipline. Threw his whole life away over a mid at best coochie. Okay. One, we don't know the quality of the coochie. Now, we can look at the quality of the woman and we can make our observations there, but we don't know the quality of the coochie. So, it could have been a real snap and gyro. I don't know.
Yeah. And I would say the following, no matter what's I don't know anyone in their life. I don't know who you've been with, and congratulations on the fact that everyone has always been a model. But it always happens in this world where a bunch of people, and I don't mean Marcus, I'm just using that, always go to that with the other person involved, and as if the guy who is a millionaire and a public figure,
and she was on his
staff.
staff.
He had a morals cause and was his assistant, right? So
yeah. And I never had a 10, but one night I had 5 2s. So there you go. Hi, guys. Got enough snow yet, Mo? Yeah, it snowed like hell here. It's cold. It's sub-zero. I have chickens outside. I got animals outside. I have to go out every hour and thaw the water out for them. Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun, guys.
Do they curse at you when you come out saying, why isn't it warmer?
No, the actual, believe it or not, I use a composting system inside the chicken run so it stays warm. So it's wrapped, and the straw and the chicken feces compost and produce heat. But it's not hot enough to actually melt the ice in the water. So I've been trudging out there all day. I ended up using a leaf blower to kind of blow myself a bath. Did not work. Did not work as well as I thought. I thought this was genius. How could nobody else has thought of this?
You want to do a good short moment? Just take what you said and do a wrong edit.
Yeah. I blew myself. If you ain't first, you're last.
Clip this.
Yeah, don't tell StreamYard to clip that. Fish to Michigan, Grub to Washington, QB Underwood 2.
Sounds like an Uber delivery.
It does. You've got fish going to Michigan, you've got grubs going to Washington.
And some wood for the fireplace.
Underwood, grub. Hey, where do grubs live? They live underwood, man. I don't know. Conspiracy. Connect the dots. Thank you for the $10 shout out, Greg. Much appreciated, sir. We'll give you a little oh. Yeah, who knows? Fish might be going to Michigan. Grub to Washington. That's boy. I don't know that I would trust Grub to be a head coach yet, but that's That's on Washington.
Look, I don't think you can. I personally don't think you can be any of the top parts of any of the Power Four conferences and have a first-time head coach who hasn't been somewhere else, either in the G5 or a smaller level funded program in the Power Four. But it doesn't mean it can't work. He has familiarity at least with the area there. If that were to happen,
I still think DeBoer gets hired after Bama. I think he means fired after Bama loses to Oklahoma. I think Bama's going to beat Oklahoma.
I think Bama's going to beat Oklahoma too. But I think he means that if Bama loses, that he suddenly would have interest because things would have changed materially. I don't know. I get that, Marcus, for sure. I tend to believe that both him and Dillingham's statements were pretty non-coach speak clear. They would look really terrible with those statements and then changing their mind 6 days later.
Is Moen in charge of the Michigan probe? I bet he finds something. I'll find something or I'll plant something. Something will happen. Underwood to Wisconsin, Greg. I don't know, Evil Badger. If Greg and I were talking about this. If Jed Fish goes to Michigan, does he not take his quarterback from Washington with him? Or does he keep Underwood on staff? But does Underwood plan to stay anyway? Because once Sharon Moore got fired, Underwood took all the University of Michigan stuff off his social media.
Did he really, though? Do we know that he definitely did that as opposed to people said it? Like, does anyone know what his...
I've seen a before and after. Now, again, in this world where you can have mascots with torches charging people and videos of the Tears Bowl, who knows what's accurate anymore?
Right.
Your guess is as good as mine, but that's what I've heard. The other rumor was that his money was fully guaranteed. So he gets to keep, I guess, that $3.5 million because of the coaching change. Well, who knows? Who knows? Indiana now has their own Heisman Trophy winner. Hoosier fans are happy, and it's well deserved. It's well deserved. You got to love to see the young guys winning sometimes.
Flipping awesome.
Flipping awesome. There haven't been any flipper babies. Cheating is one thing, but crashing out and committing felonies over your side chick is crazy work. Yeah.
That's a deep trick play from the playbook for sure.
Yeah, and allegedly the rumor is the boosters were looking for ways to get rid of Sharon Moore. So who knows? Who knows? Again, let's reserve judgment. Let's hear the whole story. He was arraigned. We heard a little bit of it, but I don't know. There's so many crazy stories out there on the social media interwebs. Let's not jump. And listen, I'm an Ohio State guy, and I'm asking you guys not to jump to conclusions on Sharon Moore. But I'll tell you one thing. Sharon Moore, they fired him in Michigan. He's got nothing left to lose. I want to find out what those 30-some text messages were about and what else he knows. James Fitzgerald says, howdy. Good to see you, James. I'm visiting my family when it's balls cold. Can't wait to get back to Phoenix. It is. It's a special type of cold here in the Midwest.
Poor Marcus. Yeah, I got nothing for you guys on that one. Sorry.
Skunk weasels eat grubs. That is the fit. Okay.
The things I have learned on this show that have literally nothing to do with football.
We need more muscle. And again, I'm going to put it out there. The Alma Otter, the otter mascot for Illinois, that needs to happen. We need to have more mustelids in the Big Ten. Mustelid mascots in the Big Ten. That's what we need to dominate. And the entitlement, indeed. You want to explain that?
Yeah. I think. Look, I'd like to welcome, and I know a lot of you were there, but I'd like to welcome the rest of America to my feelings about Notre Dame, especially the Canes family, the younger side, who didn't quite understand. Everyone got the message this week, right? You went from sympathy to abject despisal, for lack of a better way of doing it, with the way Notre Dame handled it. And there was so much entitlement from the fan base, and maybe to some degree from Pete Bavacqua, but definitely in the fan base and some Notre Dame leaning properties. I think especially the thing that drove a lot of people crazy was the revelation of the memorandum of understanding, which we won't go into details on there, but remember, MOUs are not officially contracts, but they're the paths to one, right? They could become contracts with the certain things being signed eventually. That if Notre Dame next year, under that MOU, if the playoff stays at 12 or 14, if they were number 12, they would not be removed from the playoffs. And in the theory of something weird happening again like this year, you could have had Alabama, Miami, BYU, anybody who was in the 10 and 11 spots get booted out instead of number 12 Notre Dame because they're getting special rules, hashtag entitlement, complain like a champion. I wonder whether those MOUs really stay in place because they're technically they're not official contracts yet. Why the Power 4 conference chairman and whoever else agreed to that in principle is beyond me. And maybe they didn't think of crazy scenarios, but there's only 2 years and the crazy scenarios have already come. Can you imagine? It's one thing right now for everybody to sit there and say, well, if this had been in place next year, actually Notre Dame would have been in and Miami would have been out, and obviously I would have been pissed. But what if next year in the same slot was Alabama, Ohio State? A down year where you're still in the playoff and you get booted because Notre Dame gets special privileges that Ohio State and Alabama couldn't get from their conferences, people would lose their mind.
Here's the thing. One, this memorandum of understanding doesn't mean dick, because it still comes down to where the committee ranks you. If the committee doesn't want Notre Dame in, they'll just say, Notre Dame, guess what? You're ranked 13.
Right. And they might do that,
you don't like being ranked 13. Oh, well.
But the point is, one, do you trust this committee to do anything correctly based off of the clown show we've seen the first 2 years? And the second part is a bigger question is whether or not that could happen and they could move Notre Dame. Why did these idiots even agree to it?
I want to say this. I think the 12-team committee has done it. Now, the 4-team committee, you're right. Absolute idiots. Florida State getting left out. That'll never be forgiven. They deserve to play there, whether their quarterback was there or not, whether they got blown out or not. TCU got to go there and they got blown. There's been so many blowouts in the 4-team play. Ohio State got blown out one year, 31-0 by Clemson. There's been a long history of blowouts in the 4-team playoff. But I want to say the 12-team playoff, I think, has done a pretty good job of getting the right teams in.
I don't disagree with that, Mo. I guess the only point is, though, they've also done a piss-ass poor job of communicating and following their processes week by week to create stuff.
Yes.
And therefore, I don't know whether they just got blind luck, right? Because last year, all of the teams that just missed it had pretty big flaws, from Miami to Alabama, South Carolina losing at the wrong time. This year, you can make an argument there are a lot of worthy teams in that 10 to 14-ish zone that you can make a strong case for being in, as opposed to an easy case of why they would be out. And I just, based off of the mechanisms that have been put in place, the communication or the lack thereof, or whether it was clown show Ward Manuel last year to fired number 1 to dumbass number 2 this year, I don't trust them to do things right, even though they got broken clock theory right twice so far.
I hear you. And I'm not saying they're perfect, but I'm saying it's much, much better than it was under the 4-team scenario.
Fair enough. Right? I mean, I was feeling bad for Notre Dame yet last Sunday in the early part because of at least how it was delivered, right? I was convinced Miami wouldn't get in because of how it had been delivered before, so I thought they had a viable complaint. It's what happened Monday through Wednesday, right?
And we
Brett
talked.
Yormark's my hero, by the way.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week. Alabama deserved to be left out. Alabama was the one that should have been left out. Notre Dame should have been in. But when it came down to it, they weren't going to deny the SEC a team. Bulldog Mississippi says Chip Kelly to Michigan would be interesting to see. I'm sure he could do a lot with Bryce Underwood, but the problem with Chip Kelly and the problem with people saying come back to Columbus and be offensive coordinator, man doesn't recruit.
Right. He does not. and with the Raiders, apparently he doesn't coordinate.
Does he? Well, he coordinated a hell of a paycheck.
He did. He coordinated an awesome contract that he only had to work half of one season for.
Boy, the Raiders, there's a dysfunction. I can't say anything. The Cincinnati Bengals are absolute hot drizzling shits.
I hope Fernando Mendoza likes to flip and gamble.
Yeah. Fish is perfect for Michigan. Both are sleazy. I don't know anything about Jed Fish being sleazy. I unless you're talking about how he left Arizona. Stormy Cyclone with the $5 super chat. Fun fact: where you have grubs, you have gophers. Funny that Greg chatted that. A gopher is not a weasel, by the way. A gopher is a rodent. But thank you for the super chat. Let's give you a little. I don't know. I'm on special here, so. Oh, we've got some new ones. We've got Nate getting taken advantage of.
I'm not used to being taken advantage of.
And then
Let me go deeper than that, you.
and then you've got
I can go as deep as you want to.
Oh my God.
thank you for the super chat, Stormy Cyclone. Oh shit.
He's gonna have to pay a lot of money to the church for that.
Underwood to Nebraska. Yeah, I don't think so, but Rayola's definitely leaving Nebraska. Well, I don't know. Maybe. What kind of money are you talking about? If the rumors are true, and he got guaranteed that $3.5 million because of that coaching change. I mean, you're gonna have to come up with some serious scratch.
I just can't even imagine him going to Nebraska.
They pay you $3.5 million. You do. Kevin, yes, says he's just kidding. Michigan should just start interviewing convicts for positions. Why chance hiring the wrong kind of people? They have the Michigan man standard to uphold. Now, I'm a hero. Again, I'm an Ohio State guy. I will take this with a grain of salt, but I have heard a lot of people from Michigan, from that program, coming out and saying, hey, we need to end the term Michigan man, especially when we're having these situations over and over and over again. And it's, there's the Bo Schembechler allegations, Fielding Yost, all the stuff he did. So there have been a lot of people on the Michigan side who actually have taken the position that they need to cut back on the Michigan man standard or term.
Mo, it kind of reminds me, maybe it's a video you need to do, of A Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino. Baird man, the whole thing. That whole speech. Someone needs to do it, a Michigan version. And here's the other thing too. I appreciate that there have been some very reasonable Michigan fans out there, kind of more than disappointed in the state of their program. But have you ever seen somebody has so willing to dish it out and such a coward to take it back than Portnoy from Barstool, who threatened to sue people over comments they had about Michigan, and you can't spell accountability without Michigan, for a guy who literally founded Barstool to talk up trash and rumors about everybody. Yeah, he can't take it for his own school. What a total hypocrite! Like, be able to dish it out, fine. Anyone can do that. Being able to take it and not be defensive and threaten people with lawsuits if they talk about your school, give me a freaking break.
Yeah. Stool Presidente. Yeah, he did I think I talked about it on Friday. He did one of those chats on Twitter, and a guy from Michigan State came on there and made a really solid argument, and then he just cut him off. And he's like, yeah, I dribbled on that guy. I dunked on him. Did you see that? Yeah.
He's actually not as good as it when he's on the defensive about his own school.
Yeah.
He doesn't have game.
I think he prepares a lot. I think he has to prepare a lot.
He does not have game, man. I've been completely unimpressed about somebody who built Barstool, how bad he is at it.
Marcus Williams says, as a Michigan fan, I'm rooting for Indiana to win it all. If my team wasn't in there, I would be too. if some reason Ohio State gets knocked out by Miami or Texas A&M, I'd root for Indiana as well.
Got no loyalty here on this channel.
According to Greg, Miami is looking pretty good to join the Big, and Ohio State is a catalyst. Talked about this before, man. Miami is a good-looking university for the Big Ten. Big market, new market, South Florida recruiting grounds, medical research, guys, medical research. Unfortunately, my dad's got a friend in the James. I'm going to have to go over to the James this week to visit him. Let me tell you guys, they are pouring money. It's literally they're printing money with medical research now. And the University of Miami, the U Health, they're doing a lot with genome studies. I forget what it's called. The cancer. There's a cancer writer, gene writer, basically, thing they've got going on down there. That shit's important to people like Ohio State, Michigan too, because Michigan does a lot of cancer research. These and with all the talk of funding cuts, the federal government is cutting funding. Pharmaceutical companies are increasing funding.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get my hopes up or down anymore about all of these things. I've now gone through 4 cycles of Miami's in to Miami's in at the top to Miami's out. Not going to happen. Lawsuits will indicate this won't happen. All I know is that Miami just finished raising $2.6 billion in a fundraising drive over the last few years. And a lot of that is to what Moen's talking about on the medical side, separate and apart from government funding.
Right, and let's also keep in mind this isn't anything that's going to happen imminently.
Yeah, for sure.
We're talking more towards the next media contract. We know that they're looking at adding a streaming partner, so you're going to have an additional partner on top of, assuming that you keep CBS, NBC, and Fox. You're going to have a streaming partner as well. So, but as I mentioned in my video about Utah last week, Miami's going to have to eat a little shit and do some Friday night games, stuff that other Big Ten teams don't have to do.
It's not even a big deal. Miami's already done Thursday and Friday night games forever on the ACC network anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
Sure, but and I mean, you've also traveled across the country to play Cal at 10:30.
Yes.
So
it just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but that's going to happen regardless, I think, of whoever joins the Big Ten. But I think Miami is probably. Listen, Notre Dame is always going to be the white whale, but saving Notre Dame, I think Miami's probably in the best spot.
Hey, Mo, were you surprised? I mean, we've talked about it before, both on the Florida State side and a little bit on the Notre Dame side, but were you surprised how much in the middle of probably a not so great, maybe for your internal audience and your internal fan base week, but externally not a great week for Bavacqua in advocating for Notre Dame, how much he made a point of not pointing a finger at Miami and emphasizing how good a relationship he had with the school as well as Dan Radakovich? Do you think that was just because he was trying to make sure that it was clear, or more an indication of, whatever fandoms think about rivalries and how much your fans might hate another school that might not necessarily match up with the relationship behind the scenes between the schools?
I think he was being legitimate there. I think he was saying, hey, it's one thing for Miami to take a shot at us. It's another thing for the ACC, which, I'm sorry, the ACC, a social media post scheduling the Miami Notre Dame game to run 10 times. That's poking fun. That is not a concerted campaign to knock Notre Dame out of the playoff. And Pete Bavacqua, he comes on a Monday and he lights his powder keg that there's been permanent damage with the ACC. And tune into my press conference at noon tomorrow. And you tune into the press conference and it's a popcorn fart. Nothing was said. Nothing.
Well, if you were a flea with a lifespan of several hours, on Monday it was permanent to you.
Yeah, it was pertinent. I walked away after about 30 minutes and I said, this idiot isn't going to say anything. And I'm sure he didn't. How about that Husker basketball team 11-0? Congratulations to the Husker basketball team. Ryan Willie says if you thinks Utah will get in the big without supporting Olympic sports, you will be very disappointed. Absolutely. Anybody who gets in the Big Ten is going to have to support Olympic sports.
Do you know what the minimum sports level is, active sports for the Big Ten offhand?
I don't know. We would have to probably figure it up and do an average. But, I think, I don't know if it's still that. It used to be Ohio State sponsored more Olympic sports than any other school in the country. I don't know if that's
Ohio State and UCLA and Stanford.
And right. And I'm not saying that Utah has to sponsor as many sports as Ohio State does or anything. But I mean, look, there's wrestling. I don't know that Utah has a wrestling team. Hockey, which, I know to a lot of people, hockey's not a big deal. In the Midwest, hockey is huge. So having a hockey team there, that might be helpful for Utah. Baseball, basketball, women's athletics, gymnastics, all those kind of things. You need to support all those kind of sports because, listen, the Big Ten Network, this new streaming partner, they need as much content as they can. So women's volleyball, another huge piece of business here in the Big Ten.
It could be wrong, so somebody can check it because I'm just doing a quick search to find out that, if there's any minimum requirement for the Big Ten. So let's see. I'll try to find it out. But there's definitely core sports that you have to do for the Big Ten, and then it's still a certain amount beyond that.
And we actually have affiliate members. Like Notre Dame is an affiliate with their hockey team, and Johns Hopkins is an affiliate with their lacrosse team. So, but I would put the number at least at like
15, 16,
18, including men's and women's.
Because the NCAA minimum is like 16 sponsored sports or something like that.
Opt out like a champion today.
Don't we all feel that way?
I think BYU got screwed last year and this year both. I don't think they got screwed this year. Last year, maybe. This year, they lost to Texas Tech pretty badly both times. So, and I'm not saying Texas Tech was a bad team to lose to. They're really, really good. But that's just my opinion.
BYU fans have a very legitimate case and argument for sure about it. You can poke holes back on them, but I do understand they're not crying to the wind, and they're not quitting their bowl game. They're going to show up, and they're going to attend one of the most highly watched bowl games, and it would have been an amazing game for them to play Notre Dame. It would have been even better if Notre Dame didn't screw them in the process of having a chance to play USC. So. I hope BYU is able to have a great trip for their fans going to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which at least does a good job in social media and gets you eyeballs on your team and helps to tell the story heading into the portal.
And if Notre Dame weren't a bunch of crybabies, that would have been a fantastic game, BYU versus Notre Dame.
It would have been.
Would have been, and we started the show talking about bowl season, and, people like Notre Dame are the ones that are ruining it. If OU loses another playoff game, will it give the SEC a bad rep? Well, one of those SEC
to the
teams
they have now.
Yeah, one of those SEC teams is going to lose that first round matchup.
Yeah. Either way. Look, people have their opinions set on the SEC either way, so.
Bama gets blown in the conference championship game, blown out and doesn't drop. BYU gets blown out and does. Complete double standard. Well, yeah.
I agree. Look, at least drop them one, right? They still would have been in.
Still would have been in, but here's the thing. You got to remember, the SEC set the rules. That strength of schedule, the strength of record, all those metrics that they brought, that they demanded be put into the playoff committee selection standards, that they endorsed, I should say. I shouldn't say they demanded it. They endorsed it. So yeah, it's biased towards the SEC, and it's always going to be that way as long as they do it that way. As long as it's proprietary and we're not allowed to know anything. BYU gets penalized by the committee even before the rankings come out. They lose 2 games and they're kept out. BYU should have gotten in over Bama. Now listen, I hate Notre Dame, guys. I really do, but I think Notre Dame should have gotten in over Bama and BYU. Chip won't go to Michigan unless Aaron Andrews moves there. I'd say hire him at Michigan because I know he doesn't like to recruit.
No self-interest there at all, Moen.
Nope. Hire Rich Rod at Michigan. Is Riley going to Michigan?
I doubt it.
I doubt maybe Garrett Riley. Maybe he leaves his position at Clemson and takes over. It'd be a convenient hire, and he's familiar with the Big Ten. Just saying. Yeah, but like I said, he doesn't recruit.
Why do you think UCLA suffered so fast under an obviously underqualified follow-up head coach? It wasn't because Chip Kelly did a great job recruiting.
What the fuck, Moen? Really? I didn't say all that stuff. You and Nate did. I'm just a historian here, man. I'm just keeping historical facts up. Evil Badger with a $5 holler says the callers on the Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers are losing their minds because 2 G5 teams are in the CFP. I guess they don't know what litigation is. Yeah, you can't just cut out the G5, G6.
Yeah.
And the
You're
way
not
the
doing
rules
it
were
for 4 years.
Yeah. And the way the rules were set up, it's the highest conference champions. So
Guess who was really involved in the writing of those rules?
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Let's see.
I
was
think,
Jack Swafford part of that as the Notre Dame AD? Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah, Jack Swarbrick, I think, was the most vocal about ensuring access for people. Because he assumed it would be him. And it didn't turn out that way. Thank you for the super chat there, Ryan. Here, this one will actually work. This one works. I will sue you. That is what will happen if you cut out the G5, but don't explain that to common college football fans because they will not accept it. They are not going to accept that.
They're deeply troubled by it.
Bulldog Mississippi gifted 1 membership to the College Football Mafia family. Thank you, Bulldog Mississippi. I don't know who got that because I don't have my YouTube open. But
Ed Wainer did.
Ed Wainer, congratulations to Mr. Ed Wainer on getting that membership. Make sure if you're in the chat, Ed, you thank Bulldog Mississippi. If you're watching on demand, leave it in the comment section. That would be appreciated. Let me see. I don't have. Let's see. What do I've got here? Here we go. Here's your Bulldog. Gotta love that Bulldog sound effect. Now I lost my spot where it was at, but that's okay. I found it real quick because it's a bunch of Mafia Utes O-face in the chat.
Oh, yes.
Dylan Raiola to the SEC. Book it. Dylan Raiola to whoever pay him the most. Or whoever will hire one of his family members. Kaylani to Michigan.
He might get struck down by the bolt of BYU right there if that were to happen.
Yeah, if you're not taking Penn State, you're probably not taking Michigan. Underwood to Sparty. That could happen. Now, They did get a huge boatload of money. I don't know if they can spend $3.5 million of it on a quarterback. But I don't think he's really even the kind of quarterback that Pat Fitzgerald likes.
No, I don't think that if you're Bryce Underwood, I don't think you want to improve your NFL career by going to play under Pat Fitzgerald.
I think that MOU is a 1-year thing, and Notre Dame will sue their way out of the ACC and join the Big Ten 427.
Well, it may be a moot point anyway, Moen, right? It only applies if they don't come to a new agreement for the College Football Playoff Committee for 16 teams next year. If it's still 12 or 14, then yes, in theory, it applies. If it's 16 or more, then the MOU goes away because they're essentially creating a new structure around it.
And, I had on Monday last week, or this past Monday, Greg and I had several phone conversations about this Notre Dame thing after he said that the ACC did permanent damage. One, that I fully believe that was a way to establish that they're going to try and lessen the fee, get out of the fee to leave the ACC. Two, I don't believe that means they're going to give up their independence. I believe they're going to go either individual scheduling, where they're just schedule schools on their own without the ACC, where they'll just schedule Clemson, they'll schedule Miami, they'll schedule Boston College, Pitt, Stanford, all their traditional rivals, Navy. But Greg and I got to talking about it, and I brought this up. If Notre Dame came to the Big Ten and said, let's do a scheduling agreement, as the Big Ten, do you turn it down?
I think you do, right? That's you're why would you do it? If you've been trying to get them in, do you think that they're not going to do it with the Big 12 most likely, even if the Big 12 were willing, because it doesn't really match their recruiting profile or their alumni fan base. Not to say that they wouldn't be down to throw in a Big 12 game or two here or there. I'm sure the SEC might consider it just to keep them out of the Big 10 for as long as possible.
Well, here was my point of view, and I had to explain this to Greg, and Greg and I are both of the same mindset to start out. As a fan, I would absolutely hate that. I would absolutely hate that for the Big Ten to bend the knee, as it were, for Notre Dame. But I have to look at it for the health of the Big Ten. If it means that you can protect the USC rivalry, if it means you can bring back the Michigan rivalry, if it means you can bring back Purdue, Michigan State, if you could talk Notre Dame into saying, hey, schedule 6 Big Ten games every year, that's 3 Big Ten games for your media partners. That has to be worth more money in your next media deal.
Yeah, potentially. And maybe this guy, maybe the Notre Dame guy thinks about it differently as well from that perspective for his own media partner, NBC, since he was at NBC.
Right. And, eventually it's just the tip. You're just putting the tip in on this situation. But down the road, you never know. Down the road, it could happen. So businessman Moen is saying, I would be for a scheduling agreement. Fan Moen is saying, screw the Irish, make them bend the knee.
I think if you hear any point soon that Miami and Notre Dame have done a Clemson-like scheduling agreement, you can count the days till they're gone, but they might also then not need to do a Big Ten or anybody's scheduling agreement. Maybe they'll do a couple of individual.
Yeah, they'll just do an individual. And the problem is they need to park their other sports somewhere. And I don't see the ACC saying, oh, yeah, just keep your sports here.
Yeah, and I don't remember if the Big East has enough to overlap with their full schedule. The other problem Notre Dame just generally has about scheduling, even though they can schedule, is getting Power 4 games on in late October into November, and when they're not in a scheduling agreement with a conference. They might be able to get people willing to play them in the beginning of the year, but you can't play 12 games in 4 weeks.
Right.
And again, games in week 1 don't count in Notre Dame's mind either.
But there's A lot of rivalries in the Big Ten for Notre Dame. Like I said, Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern. Yes, Northwestern and Notre Dame have a rivalry. Uh, how awesome would it be to see Notre Dame play Indiana, or Notre Dame get to play Notre Dame rotate? They can hey, and this is what I explained to Greg. I said, hey, just have them play two consistent rivals, whether it's Michigan and Purdue or Michigan State and Purdue, or have them do that, and then just rotate them through the higher quality teams that you have in the Big Ten. Have them play Ohio State one season, Oregon one season.
Mo, when it comes to rivalries, do you consider rivalries because you just play somebody all the freaking time, and as opposed to
No,
history,
I
like
consider hate.
Purdue and Notre Dame might have been a rivalry in the. I mean, I have to go back to the 50s, 40s, 60s, where maybe something like that happened, but it hasn't been it's been an ongoing game in my
but you're gonna
adult lifetime. Miami Notre Dame hasn't been ongoing over the last 20 years because they opted out, but when the game happens, it feels like a rivalry game.
No, but just like the ACC, if you were to give a scheduling agreement, you would have to give them some kind of a softball rivalry game. You just have to. It's like Notre Dame with Boston College. When's the last time that Notre Dame versus Boston College really lit any fires? But they play it all the time. Pitt versus Notre Dame, they play it all the time. When was the last time it lit any fires? I don't know. Like I said, as a fan, I would hate it. As a businessman, though, looking at the next media deal, say, hey, let's grab Georgia Tech and Miami, and we've got Notre Dame in a scheduling agreement. Bring me my money.
Understood.
Just me. Just my opinion. Hey, in the chat, let me know your opinion if you're a Big Ten fan, even if you're not a Big Ten fan. Movie and hum. Noted.
Or a blower.
Yeah, Chuck, but I think those two have stalled the deal. I thought Fox owned the big streaming rights. They do, but if you've got more content, which you get by adding more teams, you can add more partners. Rich Austin, Rock and Rant. I've only heard big insiders talking about Miami, but what about the SEC? Seems SEC would want Miami too. Like both SEC big want UNC. Wouldn't Miami prefer SEC based on rivals and geography? Well, this is going to be just your opinion, but I'd love to hear it, Rock.
There's two different parts to this, right? One is the SEC seems to only want two teams in certain states, but somehow the second or third biggest population state, that seems to be an issue, right? It's okay to have two schools in Mississippi and Alabama, wherever else that happens, but they don't want it to apparently have another team join Georgia, join Florida, whether it's Miami or Florida State, though I guess maybe more Florida State. So there's always been this thing of, there's rumblings or rumors or history. It says back in 1990-ish, 91, that Miami was basically given 24 hours to accept an SEC invitation, and they didn't decide to do it at that time. That's when South Carolina got in, and then eventually Miami went to the Big East in that period of time when the SEC was not as powerful. So there's been a feeling that ever since then, especially under Greg Sankey, that the SEC does not want Miami in. One, because if they wanted a school in Florida, maybe they want a Florida State more, but that Florida would veto both of those. I think that era is over, their ability to do that based off of what happened to Texas A&M. So there's that feeling that they just don't want it. Maybe they don't want Miami because they know it's a recruiting advantage if Miami doesn't have the SEC moniker on them, and when a lot of those schools are recruiting down in Miami's area. So then from a Miami, the second level is, I think a lot of Miami fans have just assumed that's the case and therefore have gravitated towards the Big Ten. But separately from that, Miami's alumni base happens to match up, and academic aspirations match up more with the Big Ten. They have a lot of alums from New York, from Chicago, out in Los Angeles area now that's part of the community. There's a lot of people, most of Miami's undergrad student body does not come from the state of Florida, and there certainly are some from Georgia and other places like that. But a lot of them are from the Northeast, the Midwest, and some even from the West Coast. So I would guess that Miami fan base is probably more towards the Big Ten in general when you add the alums, but there's certainly a lot of people who would rather get the SEC invite. But I think a lot of people just don't think it will ever come to even have a choice. So
that's right. Any port in a storm. Utah has a hockey team that used to be D1 and could promote to D1 if Utah were to get invited to the Big. Yeah, Rich, how many teams do they have sponsored? Or sports, I should say, sports do they have sponsored at the University of Utah? Marcus Williams brings up a great point. Nebraska's women's volleyball actually made money. Yeah, they actually packed that stadium for a women's volleyball game.
Which was amazing.
Their football stadium, by the way, that holds 90,000 people. Showed up to watch
technically
women's
actually
volleyball.
it held more for volleyball because they could put some seats on the ground.
Yep, they had floor seats. So Stanford has 36 Division I sports, 50 club sports. Is that the most of anybody in the nation, Daniel? Let me know if you know. I thought Ohio State was at like 38, but I could be wrong. I know Ohio State at one time, Texas at one time, Stanford. I know they've traded it back and forth. Another new rumor news, USC might go to SoFi Stadium. Actually, that's only going to be during the LA Olympics.
Yes, that's not a rumor. I think it's almost confirmed. Essentially, when they get ready for the Olympics, remember the Coliseum was always an Olympics place. It used to have a track. If you go back and see old USC games, the track was still there. It was removed during renovations a while ago, and they're not just putting in some like temporary track for the Olympics, so they have to put in a new track. The Olympics go through July 30th of that year, and then they literally have to go around and rip the entire track back out to go back to where USC had. So that's not going to be able to happen, in 3 or 4 weeks. I have no idea why it's taking the entire season. That's well beyond my zone, but I don't know if it's 100% confirmed, but that would be the reason. Track installed, takes longer to take out. Olympics only end July 30th. Actually, the Paralympics follow that. So They probably need the track after that. So that would be the reason why. So usually the Paralympics are a few weeks after the regular. So I'm saying it's more likely than not that is the case. And they probably would just do it for the whole season because it would be difficult to split your season tickets into 2 different seating charts. That's my guess.
And the other thing is too, you got to keep in mind UCLA is trying to go to SoFi Stadium and get out of their lease with the Rose Bowl. So you may have kind of it's complicated. It's complicated. We'll leave it at that. Utah Gymnastics has a record 10 national championships, literally the highest attended women's NCAA program in all sports. I want to see. I might have to look that up, Jack, because I think putting over 90,000 people in a football stadium to watch a women's volleyball game might top it. Club hockey could easily go to D1 with a rink already on campus. Hey, listen, I talked about it in that members only video. They did not take a $500 million private equity deal to not make themselves an attractive candidate to the Big Ten. Chip wouldn't go there. Ryan Day is like his son almost. Listen, Hummus, I want Chip to go there. I know Chip doesn't recruit. Let him go there.
Well, son almost. If Ryan Day doesn't offer Chip a job and he wants one, maybe they're going to be estranged.
Yeah. And I don't think he will offer Chip Kelly that job. Don't feel bad, BYU. ESPN and SEC keep changing the goalposts. How about Kyle Whittingham to Michigan? Well, we've heard that Michigan, Whittingham stepped down at Utah. Certain sources said it was not a retirement. He wants to continue coaching, so would not be a shocker to me. I don't know that Michigan would want a coach that old, though.
Yeah, listen, I think that would be a good interim move, though, for 3 or 4 years. Stabilize the program, help you guys figure stuff out without taking a big hit.
Bulldog Mississippi, he wanted Pimpin' Ain't Easy for gifting the membership. I will gladly give that to you. Here you go.
You saying you can't control your bitches?
Pimpin' ain't easy. Oh, sleazy. Pimpin' ain't easy. Pimpin' ain't easy. Pimpin' ain't easy.
Nate 100% said that as well. Larry the GM says, BYU fans, we need to go back to using the computers. Cool. They had BYU 12, Miami 11, Alabama 10, and Notre Dame 9.
And the computers, we didn't just use the computers either. The BCS was not just computers. People have to remember that. It was the Harris poll and the coaches poll. The Harris poll was a substitute for the AP poll.
Friends Call Me Sean says no one talks about this, but how did Ole Miss go up in the CFP rankings after losing their head coach?
Because there was no data points. Come on. Of course they should not lose anything and in fact go up because it just meant more. I don't know how that one worked, but look, they shouldn't make the mistakes that they did. They shouldn't do what they did to Florida State ever again to anybody, but they're also wildly inconsistent in how they apply their process.
James Fitzgerald says, Moen, I don't think it's the fee, it's the restriction that they can only join the ACC for football. The fee is smaller as it doesn't include football for them. Yes, the fee is smaller. If you actually think that they're going to adhere to only joining the ACC for football, they will burn that conference to the ground before they do that.
But it's not. That's not even the way. If I'm not mistaken, it's not as. It's if they're going to bring. They can. There's some semantics between bringing the football into the ACC versus taking all their sports elsewhere.
Right. It's from the COVID season. As part of their COVID agreement, they said if they join any conference in football before 2036, it has to be the ACC.
Right.
My
But I think
point
there's
is
still an out though. If they take all of their sports out, then they don't, and that doesn't apply.
right. I think it doesn't apply anyway because it's going to be a situation where they're going to say, hey, it was a COVID season. We had to do what we had to do. We don't have to adhere to it. Listen, Florida State and Clemson got out of that ironclad grant of rights against the ACC.
Right.
Notre Dame has a hell of a law school.
Yeah.
And they've got some hellacious lawyers. I think they will be able to get out of that.
And they also don't have the same buyout anyway, right? The number you hear is not what they have to pay to get out of the ACC because
it's just for their other sports, right?
It's just for their other sports, which if you do the math, usually is, I don't know. We've seen what that number would be for Notre Dame, but I think 25% of what the exit fee is probably 20 to 25% is probably a fair guess based off of how they value football for the ACC, or maybe how they don't value football in the ACC, which is half the problem.
Caleb Ramirez says, I don't think the Big Ten would do that. It's funny how billions of dollars will make interesting bedfellows, Caleb.
I want to see it just to see you because you've done so much don't bend the knee to Notre Dame stuff that I just want to see you that week, even if you're now putting forward as a smart businessman.
I would. I'm doing, like I said, businessman Moen is saying that's a good idea. Plus, you're just putting the tip in. Maybe someday. I think Notre Dame's fixed rivals in the Big would be USC and Purdue or Sparty. They wouldn't double them up with Scum and USC. I think at some point they're going to have to play Michigan. I think at some point they're going to have to play Ohio State. At some point they're going to have to play Oregon. At some point they're going to have to play Penn State. I think if they did a scheduling agreement, they would rotate them in there with those types of teams. And that's why I'm saying it's a good business decision because you would get 3 of those games every. Yeah, you might get Purdue one year, Purdue, USC, and Michigan. The next year it might be Michigan State, USC, and Ohio State. Year after that it could be Northwestern, USC, and Penn State. Could be Miami. Hey, if Miami's in there, why wouldn't you add Miami in there in that category too? Marcus Williams says, I wouldn't do anything with Notre Dame unless they join the big fully. I ain't putting just a tip in. I'm going all the way. Well, I'm saying you go all the way, but you put the tip in first. You've got to, come on, man.
This all sounds like things that Sharon Moore might have said.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Where's the laughter? I don't think I have Badum Tiss on here. I might. I take that back. Texas was already considering their schedule deal with Notre Dame, and I think their whining will push Texas to dump them. In a 9-game conference schedule, SEC World scheduling Notre Dame makes little sense.
I mean, it still makes sense, right? Because you're supposed to probably still play one strong team out of conference among the three. And if Notre Dame remains good in any form, it is going to help your metrics, right? It could hurt you on the win-loss front, but if you win, it definitely helps you. And even if you lose, you might wind up having a slightly higher strength of schedule, strength of record than another team, even in the Southeastern Conference, even if you had the same conference schedules, which you don't, right? So if you get one of those, our conference schedule looked good on paper, and then teams like LSU didn't deliver, you have that as a backstop because in an unequal scheduling world within the conference. And you could see it either way, I'm sure.
I am going to ask ChatGPT what the average number of sports is in the Big Ten. Rich Austin is saying it is 19 sports, Division I sports that are sponsored by the University of Utah today. Larry the GM wants to know off the top of your head, do you know how many sports Miami has?
I do not know off the top of my head, but I could find out in 2 seconds. I mean, everybody in the NCAA has to have a minimum amount of sports. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami were to go to like the Big Ten, that they might require another sport or two to get added. There's a few sports that Miami cut long ago because of budgeting reasons and Title IX stuff like men's diving, which produced Olympic champions. Miami doesn't have a women's softball team, which is fairly ridiculous for where Miami is based.
The other guy says it's Harvard at 42 NCAA sports, but I want to know the sports, Daniel, because like they probably have like a Baccarat team there. That polo with the horses, I guess it's just called polo. They probably have weird rich people sports that the rest of us don't even count. So
Miami, I think, has 16 sponsored sports right now, and a few club teams. Actually have a pretty good hockey team on the club level. But they probably would have to add a couple of sports, or would not have to, but probably would wind up adding a couple of sports with that additional revenue. The ones that have been mentioned in the past were re-adding some teams that have been lost along the way, like men's golf, as an example, would be one. There's like women's golf. There's a bunch of sports where, because of football and the balance, teams got cut. That the men's side and women's side could both expand. If you add women's softball, you'd be able to add back men's swimming and diving or golf, things like that.
Kai OH187. I believe that all the Big Ten has to do to get Notre Dame to give up its independence is to remove the USC rivalry. There's probably going to be a gap in that rivalry. Pete Avakwa already mentioned that this week. The ACC dissolves completely. I don't think that's going to happen. You're going to have some schools that are going to have to backfill. NBC goes all in for the Big Ten TV contract. Who knows what the hell NBC's doing? NBC Universal is just kind of spinning out there by themselves right now. Peacock is not doing well. Northwestern is at 19 according to Grok. Where would Texas football now be had they scheduled Ohio U rather than Ohio State?
They would still have the worst. I mean, look, it's very possible Texas could have been in. I'm not going to lie, but they also would have had the worst The second worst or worst loss? Alabama has the worst loss of the top 12, I would think, with Florida State because Florida beat Florida State. So probably have the second worst loss, but they would still have a ton of really good things on the Texas side. I think it's very possible they could have been ahead.
So the average number, of sports sponsored by Big Ten institutions is roughly 23. It's 23.3. There are top-heavy universities. For example, Ohio State has 34. Penn State has 32. That pulls the average up. And then you have schools like Oregon and Purdue, both at 18, that kind of pull it down. So, but I believe Oregon's added some. I think ChatGPT probably didn't think as hard as I thought they would think. I would look to see how Paramount and Warner Brothers works out. Maybe a huge factor in 2030. Well, they're going to have to deal with Netflix too. I don't know that Netflix is going to be out of that race yet.
The only difference is that Netflix isn't trying to acquire the cable properties of the Warner Brothers merger, whereas Paramount's trying to eat everything. So they would have more outlets, I guess, depending upon how they looked at it.
Which I can't understand how that is not an antitrust exemption.
What is antitrust? It's 2025. We don't need to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. Who cares?
I guess. Going all the way would mean taking Miami, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Virginia, thus solidifying a foothold in the South. Then head west. Amazon would approve. Listen, I don't think the Big Ten goes beyond 20 unless Notre Dame's involved. I don't. I think Miami's number one, and then we can make an argument for who's number two. Is it Florida State? I don't know.
Well,
I like Georgia Tech.
But would it be safe to say, like, in this year, I can remember at least 4 different versions of who was the number one team going to the Big Ten, Notre Dame aside, in this calendar year, depending upon what the latest information is. Like, how much of anything is really set in stone? Are we coming to the end games the minute the College Sports Commission is all fully ratified, if it ever does, by all the members, and if any legislation gets done, and therefore, like, people are finalizing who they think the list is right after that, because you're going to have the gap between when that gets finalized, if it does, which I'm still skeptical about legislation. There's a lot more talk in Las Vegas this week about the NCAA maybe having to go towards collective, the college football playoff teams, the FBS going to collective bargaining, because I think they have less faith that legislation will in fact happen. Absolutely. But how much certainty do we even have on who any team is at the top?
We don't.
Again, I can say I definitely remember at least 3, if not 4 times this year where Miami was not number 1 on the Big Ten list, but was like 5th or 6th on a list.
It's fluid. Let's put it that way. It's fluid. Thank you for the super chat. We're going to let you cook LC versus here.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right. Thank you for oldie but goodie. I love that one. Thank you for the super chat. I think we're going to wrap it up here, so let's do our last call for the evening. Rock, what is your last call?
The games are coming. Stop complaining about the G5. We all wanted an expanded playoff, or a lot of people did. I know some people didn't, but most people did. Maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe we won't. Maybe the chalk will go there. But either way, I'm looking forward to craziness. I'm just excited after 20 years of being in the wilderness to at least be in the game. We'll see what happens. And Notre Dame fans, just stop. Could you just stop? Seriously, you're messing up my algorithm on Twitter.
I just want to say congratulations again to Fernando Mendoza. I love when an underdog wins, except when it's against Ohio State. But I'm still happy for Fernando. Hopefully we can stop with the Rudy nonsense, and Fernando will be the new key Fernando. And I want to get let's get a coalition going to where anytime he takes the field, they play Fernando by ABBA. And I think
that would be excellent, actually.
That would be excellent.
You can even make it a little bit more up-tempo, get a rock version, maybe have Pantera re-recorded.
Pantera. But have a spotlight just hit him like he's coming out, led by the Indiana Hoosier team, runs out, and then a spotlight, and it's the stars at night, Fernando. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode of Mowing After Dark. If you're new here, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That helps us out tremendously. Leave us a comment. That helps us out tremendously too. All those things don't cost you anything. They are free. So please consider doing and supporting that. Make sure you also head over to CFB Express on YouTube and give that a like and a subscribe. That's Rock's channel. He certainly lends his time here, so I would appreciate if you would head over there and do that. We will see you again on Tuesday for Bombers Blitz, and then on Wednesday for the Take, and then Friday for the Big Freaking Friday show, and hopefully we will have everybody's brackets up if everybody gets me their picks in time. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in again. Peace out. We'll see you next Sunday.